Imagine being asked to lend your voice to a global superstar, someone you've never met in person, someone whose life story has already inspired millions around the world. Then, suddenly, while reading the script, something unexpected happens. You pause, your voice trembles, and for a brief moment, you forget that you're just doing a job. Because the story you're reading feels real, painfully real. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Jikook Lover, the channel where we uncover the most emotional, shocking, and mysterious stories surrounding the global phenomenon that is BTS. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, make sure you hit the like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Jikook Lover so you never miss the latest viral stories about BTS and the moments that make the entire world stop and watch. Because today's story is coming from an unexpected place. Japan. A professional Japanese voice actor recently revealed something surprising after being asked to dub the story of From in a documentary project. At first, he thought it would be just another job, another script, another recording session. But what he discovered while reading the story behind Jimin's life left him deeply moved. So moved, in fact, that he later admitted the experience changed the way he saw the world. The question now is, what exactly did this voice actor discover behind the real story of Park Jimin? And why are fans around the world now asking the same mysterious question? Was this simply a professional experience, or did he uncover something far deeper about the man behind the global superstar? In recent years, the influence of Korean pop culture has expanded far beyond music charts and concert arenas. The stories behind K-pop idols have become cultural narratives shared across continents, translated into multiple languages, and retold through documentaries, interviews, books, and global media productions. One of the latest stories capturing the attention of fans worldwide comes from Japan's respected voice acting industry. In Japan, voice actors are not simply performers behind microphones. They are highly trained professionals whose emotional delivery can shape how audiences perceive a character's entire story. Because of this, casting the right voice actor for any international project is an extremely serious decision. And this is where the story begins. The voice actor at the center of the conversation is Seiichiro Yamashita, a well-known Japanese performer admired for his ability to portray emotional depth through voice alone. For many anime and film fans in Japan, Yamashita's name is already familiar. His voice has brought numerous characters to life, often capturing subtle emotions that resonate deeply with audiences. But even for someone with such experience, the project involving Park Jimin turned out to be something very different. According to Yamashita, when he was first approached to participate in the Japanese dubbing of a documentary segment focusing on Jimin's story, he already knew the name. After all, BTS is not just a music group anymore. They are a global cultural phenomenon. Their influence stretches from Asia to Europe, from the Americas to the Middle East, crossing languages and generations. Yet despite knowing about BTS and their massive global reputation, Yamashita admitted that he had never truly explored the deeper personal stories of the members. Until this project. When the script arrived, Yamashita began reading it the way any professional voice actor would, carefully, analyzing the tone, understanding the emotions behind each line. But as he continued reading, something unexpected began to happen. He realized that the story he was about to narrate wasn't simply about a superstar. It was about a human journey, a young boy who once dreamed of performing on stage, a trainee who endured years of intense pressure and self-doubt, a performer who pushed himself relentlessly to meet expectations not only from fans, but also from himself, and a man who, despite standing under the bright lights of global fame, continued searching for authenticity in everything he did. Yamashita later shared that there was a particular moment in the script that made him pause completely. It described a period in Jimin's life when he struggled with self-confidence during his early career. For a moment, the voice actor stopped reading, not because he didn't understand the line, but because the emotion behind it suddenly felt too real. In that moment, Yamashita said he realized something profound. Behind the image of a perfect idol, there was vulnerability. Behind the applause of stadium crowds, there was someone who had once questioned himself. And behind the polished performances seen by millions, there was a story of persistence. When recording finally began, Yamashita approached the microphone differently. Instead of thinking purely as a voice actor, He tried to imagine the emotions Jimin might have felt during those moments described in the documentary. The pressure, the determination, the quiet strength required to keep moving forward. And according to Yamashita, that emotional connection changed everything. He explained that dubbing Jimin's story didn't feel like acting. It felt like carrying someone's memories. For many professionals in the voice acting world, maintaining emotional distance from a character is considered essential. It allows them to remain technically precise. But in this case, Yamashita admitted that the emotional impact of the story made that distance almost impossible. And that realization surprised him. Because even though he had worked on countless projects before, it was rare for a script to leave such a strong personal impression. When Yamashita's comments about the experience began circulating online, the reaction from fans of BTS, known as ARMY, was immediate. Across social media platforms, thousands of fans shared their thoughts. Some said they were not surprised at all. For years, many fans have spoken about how Jimin's sincerity and emotional openness have been part of what makes him so relatable. Others said that hearing such reflections from someone outside the fandom made the story even more meaningful, because it suggested that Jimin's impact was not limited to dedicated fans. It could also reach people encountering his story for the very first time. Soon, discussions about Yamashita's experience spread across fan communities around the world. People began revisiting old interviews, performances, and documentaries involving Jimin. They talked about his journey from trainee to global star. They remembered moments when he openly discussed the challenges he faced in his career. And they debated what it is about Jimin that creates such a powerful emotional connection with audiences. Some cultural commentators even suggested that stories like this illustrate a larger phenomenon surrounding BTS. Their music may bring listeners in, but it is the authenticity of their personal stories that keeps people emotionally invested. Among the members, Jimin has often been described as someone who expresses vulnerability openly. Through his performances, his lyrics, and his interactions with fans, he has frequently shown a willingness to talk about personal growth, self-reflection, and emotional resilience. Perhaps that honesty is what makes his story resonate with so many people. Yet Yamashita's experience adds another intriguing layer to the conversation. Because in this case, the emotional response did not come from someone who had followed BTS for years. It came from someone encountering the story primarily as a professional assignment. And that raises an interesting question. How can the life story of one artist reach someone who is simply reading lines in a recording studio? Is it the universal themes of struggle and perseverance? Is it the sincerity with which Jimin has shared his experiences? Or is there something about his presence, something intangible, that continues to draw people closer to his story? These questions are now being discussed across fan forums, social media threads, and cultural commentary platforms. Some believe Yamashita's reaction confirms what many fans have always believed, that Jimin's influence goes far beyond music. Others see it as an example of how powerful storytelling can transcend language barriers. Because even though the documentary script was translated into Japanese, the emotional core of the story remained intact. And perhaps that is the most fascinating part of this entire situation. The story of a Korean artist, narrated by a Japanese voice actor, being discussed by fans from dozens of different countries. It is a reminder that art, when it is honest enough, can travel across cultures in ways few people expect. Yet even as admiration for Jimin grows worldwide, some observers raise another perspective. In creative fields, it is not uncommon for actors to feel deeply connected to the characters they portray. Immersing oneself in a story can naturally trigger emotional reactions. So was Yamashita's response simply a reflection of his dedication as a performer? Or did the story of Jimin genuinely reveal something unique about the person behind the global star? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. What is certain is that Yamashita himself continues to speak about the experience with great respect. He has mentioned that learning about Jimin's life made him reflect on the pressures faced by artists who live under constant public scrutiny. It also made him curious about how someone in such a position manages to remain grounded. And that curiosity now seems to be shared by many others. Because if a single script could leave such a powerful emotional impression on someone who had never followed BTS closely before, what does that say about the real impact of Park Jimin's story? Is it possible that the depth of his journey still hasn't been fully understood by the world? As discussions about the story continued spreading across social media, something even more interesting began to happen. Fans were no longer just talking about the emotional reaction of the Japanese voice actor. Instead, they began revisiting the long journey of Park Jimin himself, trying to understand why his story could affect someone who had never been deeply involved in the world of BTS before. For many long-time followers of BTS, the explanation seemed obvious. Jimin's journey has always been one of the most emotionally layered narratives within the group's history. Long before he became one of the most recognized performers in global pop music, Jimin was known among fans as someone who placed enormous pressure on himself. He trained relentlessly, constantly questioning whether he was good enough, strong enough, or deserving enough to stand beside the other members. In interviews and documentaries throughout the years, Jimin has openly shared moments when self-doubt nearly overwhelmed him. Yet at the same time, those struggles seemed to become the very force that pushed him to improve. His performances became sharper, more expressive, and emotionally intense, turning him into one of the most captivating performers on stage. For someone like Seiichiro Yamashita, encountering the story through a script may have felt almost like discovering a hidden layer beneath the polished image of global fame. Because when the stage lights fade and the cheering crowds disappear, the narrative that remains is not about superstardom. It is about perseverance. And perhaps that is what resonated so deeply. The idea that behind every breathtaking performance lies countless unseen hours of struggle, discipline, and personal reflection. When Yamashita described how he felt while reading the script, some fans said it reminded them of the first time they themselves discovered Jimin's story. For many ARMY around the world, learning about Jimin's vulnerabilities made his achievements feel even more meaningful. It transformed him from a distant celebrity into someone whose journey reflected universal human experiences, fear, ambition, insecurity, and growth. But the reaction from the voice actor also sparked a larger conversation beyond fandom circles. Cultural commentators began discussing how BTS, and Jimin in particular, have become symbols of a new kind of global storytelling. Their narratives are no longer confined to Korean entertainment. Instead, they move freely across languages and cultures, resonating with audiences who may not even understand Korean. A documentary script written in one country can move a voice actor in another. A performance filmed in Seoul can inspire viewers in Europe or South America. And a single story about perseverance can suddenly feel personal to millions of strangers. This is part of what makes the phenomenon surrounding BTS so fascinating to cultural observers. Their influence does not rely solely on music or performance. It is deeply tied to the emotional authenticity of their stories. Among those stories, Jimin's has always carried a particular intensity. His artistic style often blends elegance with vulnerability, creating performances that feel both powerful and fragile at the same time. That duality, strength mixed with sensitivity, has become one of the defining aspects of his public image. But the comments from Yamashita introduced a new question into the ongoing conversation. If someone encountering Jimin's story for the first time can feel such a strong emotional response, what does that say about the deeper message within that story? Is it simply the universal appeal of perseverance? Or is there something uniquely compelling about the way Jimin expresses his experiences through music, performance, and personal reflection? As the discussion continues to grow, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The story of Park Jimin is no longer just the story of a K-pop idol. It has become part of a larger narrative about human resilience, artistic sincerity, and the mysterious ways in which personal stories can cross cultural boundaries. And now fans around the world are asking a question that feels more intriguing than ever. If a single documentary script could move a seasoned voice actor to reflect on life itself, what might happen if even more people outside the BTS fandom begin discovering the deeper story behind Park Jimin? Would they see the same sincerity that millions of fans already believe in? Or could they uncover an entirely new side of Jimin that the world has only just begun to understand? Purple Heart,